Hi everyone, today we are going to create an artwork inspired by the art of Lichtenstein. And he was famous for his art for using the theme of comic books. And some of his artwork showed the Ben-Day dots in it from printing in newspapers. Some of his art was images of comic books that included text. And some of his artwork was actually the idea of onomatopoeia, which are our sound words that you see in comics a lot of times. So we are going to be creating artwork inspired by the onomatopoeia, which are our sound words. And the first thing you're going to have to do is decide on a sound word. So I have this list up on my site, but you can take a look here. And basically, I picked only the 3- and 4-letter words for doing this because trying to get too many letters in can be sort of difficult. So these are just the 3-letter and 4-letter onomatopoeia. I'm going to go ahead and do, let's see, I'm going to do zip. I'm going to use the word zip. So it's a 3-letter word. When I do that word, I am going to need some paper. So I would like you to find a blue, a red, and a yellow. These are pretty common colors that Roy Lichtenstein would have used in his artwork. If you can't find these 3 colors to use, whatever 3 colors you have is fine. I just like to use these. They're a little bit more traditional. They are also our primary colors, so we'd be using our primary color family. And then the 4th piece of paper is up to you. You can look around your house. If you have newspaper, you can find a piece that's like all words like this and just use the newspaper that you have at home. You might even have like an article in a magazine that can be cut out to use for this kind of word paper. Roy Lichtenstein used some found paper in his art making. He would use found things as well. So I've used newspaper here in this example. If you don't have that, you can usually go online and find a printable. So this is like a newspaper that I found online. There's a picture of it that I was able to print to use. That's just text. Or if you want to do something where you use the Ben-Day type dots as the last paper, you can do that. If all else fails, grab a sheet of white paper. You can always just do a sheet of white paper with the other 3, but you want 4 sheets of paper total. So when you get started, you're going to start by choosing which color you want your letters on. So in this one, I chose yellow for the letters. I think for this one, I'm gonna do blue letters. So when I actually, maybe just so you guys can see the lettering a little better, I will do red. Now, when you're drawing your letters, we're gonna make bubble letters. And to make bubble letters, we need to remember that they need to be big. Not obviously so big that they don't fit on a sheet of paper. And that you need to draw the letter that you're drawing pretty lightly because this letter is going to get erased after you make it into a bubble letter. So if I'm doing zip, I'm going to need a Z. So I'm not drawing it super dark. Hopefully you can see it. I'm going to do an I, a capital I, uppercase, and then a P. And I left a little bit of space between my letters so that I can make them bubble letters. Now, once I've done that, I am going to turn them into bubble letters, which means I'm basically going to draw a bubble line around them. You can press a little harder on this one, but you want to stay at least about a finger away from the original letter. And then I make them kind of curvy. If you don't want to make them curvy, you want them to have like straight ends and things, that's fine. All right, so there's my Z. Here's my I, and I'm just kind of going around it, trying to stay about the same distance away from the original letter all the way around. And then my P. Now, something about my P, in this here, you can see you also have to add the inside part of the letter. If you want to make it a little bit more stylized, a lot of bubble cartoon letters end up doing a really small sort of inside cutout. And you don't necessarily have to cut that out when you cut your letters out. In my example here, I actually just colored them in black, so I didn't have to try and sit and cut that little centerpiece out because that can be a little bit challenging. I will show you how to do it if you want to. Now, my next step here is to cut my letters out. So I want to make sure I'm staying on my lines and turning the paper rather than the scissors. And then after I cut these out, I'm going to go back and erase the letters on the inside. If you want to erase the letters on the inside before you cut, that's fine too. It's really up to you. It might even be easier to erase first just because then I don't have to worry about the paper ripping while I'm erasing. So maybe it would have been better to erase first, which is fine because I can still go back. If I'm going to erase now, I want to make sure I erase between my finger and my thumb so that the paper obviously doesn't get ripped while I'm doing this. Like I said, maybe it's a little easier to erase the inside letter before you start cutting because the paper won't rip since it's whole when you're doing that. So after your letters are cut out, you are going to be cutting out some other shapes too. So you can see I've got my letters here. I'm going to be cutting some other stuff out as well. So I'm just going to show you this one with one letter cut out. Actually, no, I can't. I'm going to show you the P too because I wanted to explain how to cut out the middle of that. So if you have a letter that has a little spot in the middle, like an A, a B, a P, there's quite a few letters like this. Like I said before, you can color it in black and then you don't have to worry about cutting out. Or your other option is to cut it out. Now, to cut something like this out, what you do is you pinch the paper right in the middle of that space and you give it a little snip, just like that. And that gives you the space to get the scissors in, and then you can just really careful with the tip of the scissors get that little piece in the middle out. And if it's not exactly on the line, that's not a big deal. So that is how you can cut the middle out if that's the way you want to do it. Like I said, it is a little bit harder, so you can have an adult help you if you want, or you can just color the middle in instead. All right, so once your letters are cut out, I guess I'll go ahead and cut all of mine out here. I'm gonna go a little faster than you should at this point. Once you've got these cut out, don't crumple up the leftover paper you have because that is usable paper still. You might use that to make some of your extra shapes in your artwork that you can add on. So you want to make sure you hold on to it and don't crumple anything up until the very end. All right, so there's my letters. So I'm going to put this aside. For my background paper, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the yellow. So that's going to be my background. That means I'm not cutting that one out at all. Now I'm going to put my letters kind of over here just to kind of get a sense of what they look like. And you can decide, you know, with Zap, I kind of went up with my letters. You can do them all in a row if you want. You can overlap them. There's things you can do. Maybe I'll do Zip like that. Okay, so now for the blue paper, I want to create sort of that big sort of piece behind it. It could be an explosion type shape like this, where it looks like it's exploding out. It could be a cloud type shape. It's really up to you to decide what shape you want it to be. I think for Zip, I'm going to do a shape that actually kind of comes zigzaggy, like a zipper, kind of both sides. So it kind of goes in line with my letters. So then I'm going to cut this piece out. Now, since I've got this zigzag here, I'm actually going to start by going from tip to tip of the zigzags, because then it's actually a lot easier to just go and sort of snip the in-between parts off instead of having to go back and forth the whole time. So I actually prefer to do it this way when I'm cutting a zigzag like this. And then I also have these really cool triangle pieces left when I'm done, and I might be able to use those somewhere else in my artwork. So they're nice to hold on to as extra shapes as well. All right, I'm going to do that again on this side. Okay, so now I've got this big piece, so I want to think of some other shapes that I can include with my onomatopoeia. I could do triangles, like what I have cut out right now. I could do star shapes, lightning bolt shapes, heart shapes, drip, or like if you're doing a word that might involve like a sound that's like a wet sound, you could do like a water drip shape. It's really, you have to think about your word. So with Zip, I think I want to stick mostly with pointed shapes for this word. All right, so there's Zip. So I might go ahead and use some of these triangles I already have. That could be an interesting thing to sort of add on outside of my piece. I'm going to try and stick with the ones that are a little bit straighter. I also have my paper I haven't used yet, my newsprint paper. So maybe I cut out some long diamond shapes, and I'm just cutting these. If you want to draw them first, that's great. You might get a better shape if you draw it, so maybe I'll do something like that. Do a couple of those. I also like the longer sort of, so I'm kind of planning this as I go here. The long kind of skinny triangles are a nice thing sometimes to add, but you usually have to plan those sort of tucked in under things. So when you're cutting them out, you kind of have to think, oh, where do I want that? Like this might go behind the blue paper. So you are gonna have to think a little bit about layering here. And then once you have all of your shapes planned out, then you can also use the letter paper, the leftover letter paper as well. So you can use this. I'm gonna just cut a piece off here. And these can become shapes as well. So I might do another couple, do a couple of more triangle shapes here. All right, so as you work to figure out how you want to fit things in, it's nice sometimes to layer things. So like these red ones here that I have, if I make them just slightly smaller, they actually fit kind of inside the other one I made, which I like the look of. Same thing, I could use some of these blue triangles and kind of fit them inside, so it's layering of the shapes. So that's something to be thinking about as well. Once you have everything planned out and kind of placed where you want it here, then you need to think about what order you need to glue things in. So for me, the letters are obviously last, so I'm going to move those out of the way. Now, when I look at this, these actually need to go down, I think, first. Oh, and I think I want one more blue triangle, so these are kind of the same on both sides. So if these need to go down first, then I'm going to lift this up next and kind of move it out of the way so that I have what I need left here to glue down first. So these are going to be on my paper first. I'm going to try and just take them up one at a time. I'm going to use a glue stick. If you want to use a glue bottle, that's fine. I'm just going to do this with a glue stick because it dries a little bit quicker, which means I can do the marker step faster. And so I'm going to take them up one at a time, put a little glue on the back, and then press it back down. I'm going to move this red one out of the way so I can glue this on first. A little glue on the back, press it back down. You might want to glue kind of off the big paper so you don't get it on it, but if you're using a glue stick, it usually dries pretty quick anyways. All right, so once I've got these lined up where I need them, my next thing that needs to go down is that blue paper, because that's what I lifted off next. So I'm gonna get that on there. All right, so now I'm gonna take these diamonds off because they're gonna go on afterwards. And I'm gonna put a whole bunch of glue on here. I'm not going right up to the edges. I just need enough to hold it on. And then I'm going to line this up in the corners so that it matches. And then get that glued down. And then if I need to, I can go back and kind of lift these up. And if I just put my thumb behind them and get a little glue on the tip and then glue the tips down. All right. So the next part is the diamonds, because those were still under my letters. My letters are going to be last. So after I get these little tips glued down. All right, so then I had my diamonds here and here. So I'm going to put a little glue on the back of those. All right, and then the last step is my letters. So now I'm going to add the glue on the backs of the letters. Pay close attention to the back here because the letters are not usually able to be flipped. I mean, my eye could, but the Z would be backwards. So do be careful with that. All right, Z, I, and P. If you want to do punctuation, like you want to put an exclamation point at the end, you certainly can do that too with some of your papers. All right, so the last step now is, last couple steps here, is to outline. So outlining all of the edges of your papers, the letters, what's behind it, every last piece. So you want to use a black marker. I've got a Sharpie here. You can use a regular Crayola marker, but you just want to stay along the edge of the paper and create that black outline, which you see in comic books. And then you also, should think about adding in some extra lines to sort of emphasize things. So in this one, I added some extra lightning bolts, and then I kind of sort of created a contour line around parts of the letters. In this one, I could see myself using zigzags again, because I think of those when I think of a zipper, or just even adding in some lines. I'm gonna have to use the one I just made here, but you know, adding in some lines that come sort of out around the letters. You could also add in some extra shapes too if you wanted to. You could draw, like maybe I'll add in like an extra shape here on the red triangles. So you can do those types of things as well. So then when you're done outlining and you've added in those extra lines and shapes with your black marker, you have your finished onomatopoeia artwork inspired by Roy Lichtenstein. All right, I hope you have fun.